So technology has become almost not the competitive advantage anymore. The advantage is the integration of that technology to create new things.
A nossa conversa é com Hitendra Patel, ele é líder global em inovação, está aqui no Brasil, vai conversar com o canal UM BRASIL e você pode acompanhar essa entrevista e outros conteúdos pelas redes sociais, Facebook e Instagram, @canal UM BRASIL. O Hitendra é líder da iExcel Center, que é um dos maiores centros de inovação do mundo e recebeu a gente para essa conversa sobre inovação. Hitendra, thank you very much. I'm going to begin with the one thing that you say a lot when you talk about innovation, that it's about the democratization of the innovation. Is that possible?
So this is one of the biggest challenges, is a lot of people think innovation is for this lone genius, the guys who come up with an idea while they're driving to work or taking a shower, an idea comes. But the reality is, I think everybody can be like Steve Jobs or Bill Gates. And there are methods on how they think. And the way they are able to become geniuses is they have more dots, more dots. And because they have more dots, they can see more pictures. And then another thing they have is an ability to connect the dots. And they have a structure or a methodology to do that. And most of us don't know how to do those things. But we can teach people to get more dots, meaning get smart and get smart about new things. And then we can teach them how to connect and reconnect until they come up with a wow or a eureka. So we believe we can democratize innovation.
Let's talk a little bit more about this method of yours that you say about the connecting dots. What are the dots? Where can we find it?
Yeah. So the dots basically is an analogy. If you have 3 dots and you connect them, you'll get a triangle, and you aren't going to come up with anything more creative. So those people who have more dots, they're going to be able to create more pictures, more images. And so if you look at the night sky, and there's only 3 stars out there in a São Paulo night, then you aren't going to see anything. But if you go into the desert, the night light has got lots of dots or stars, and therefore you can see dragons, and you can see birds, and you can see warriors. So the point over here is those with more dots can create better pictures. What do the dots mean in business? It means that you need to have either understanding of what your customers are talking about. You need to have dots from your suppliers. You need to have dots from your competitors. You need to have dots from other countries and companies are doing the same thing. And when you have all those dots, then the number of possibilities of what you can do next increases. And that's what dots really means. Get smart.
You say a lot that we are getting global with everything that surrounds us, but different cultures gives different innovations, methods, or outcomes.
So there are cultural elements in terms of how people think and how people solve problems. You see the Germans, they're very good at saying, here is the problem, now we're going to work on the problem, and now let's work hard on this problem, here's a solution. Then you see people, let's say Italians, and they see the same problem, and they seem to be a little bit more random in how they solve the problem, but they solve the problem too. But when you uncover the details of it, the methodology of innovation is pretty much the same. You need to identify a problem, you need to get smart about solutions, then you got to figure out which are the best solutions to put them together, and then you got to get out and implement them. And that is universal. But we do see styles. People have different styles of thinking, how they talk to each other. And those who are in innovation, they are actually the best people to embrace the different styles. Because if everybody is the same, then you aren't going to come up with very different ways of doing things and different solutions. So the diversity is actually good, but how you do it is universal.
What is more important for the development of innovation, money or education?
That's the big question. What we find is the people who are innovative, they find a way without the money. The people who are not innovative will always think money will solve the problem. And what I mean by that is scarcity actually makes us think differently. We try and find different solutions. So money is actually a problem. If you have money, then you're actually lazy. And you'll use money to find solutions. But if you don't have the money, then you'll find partners. You'll find different ways to get things done. And that's how actually innovation happens. So scarcity is important. It's education, people. People who are patient, people who are resilient, people who don't give up, people who stay the path. And those guys are more likely to be successful than the person with the money, but money and that personality is probably the best recipe.
When we think about countries like Brazil, it's not a rich country, so we lack of investments in innovation. What does this gives us in terms of opportunities or the development of the innovation itself?
Sure. So I've been coming to Brazil since 1996, and I've seen Brazil change every single year, and it grows. And I've always been impressed by the resourcefulness of Brazilians, the resilience of Brazilians. The economy here goes from up and down, and yet you see the Brazilians, they smile and they kind of push through and they survive through this thing. So they have grit, they've got perseverance, and they find ways to solve problems. So Brazilians are incredibly entrepreneurial actually, but the challenge is the economy goes up and down so much that you have to survive through the down to be able to get back to the up. And this is one of the challenges, is this up and down part of the economy that affects Brazilians. But Brazil, I think, is extremely resourceful, and I think Brazilians are incredibly creative and entrepreneurial.
What do you think is the role of the governments? Because here in Brazil, for instance, we still count on the government to tell us where and how to invest in innovation, or people who have money, they can put their money on a project or something. But how do you see the role of the governments in the system of the innovation?
So the government plays a big role in terms of choosing directions where the country wants to go. So when we looked at John F. Kennedy in the United States, he says, we're going to put a man on the moon. That man on the moon basically says, we're going to focus on space, we're going to focus on new fuels, new technologies, new material science, new communications, and it sets an agenda for the rest of the country of what to focus on. If, like in Dubai, they focused on tourism and they focused on buildings. So the universities of Dubai are focusing on construction, they're focusing on tourism as a way to support the strategy of the government. So governments need to choose where the future of the country is going to be. And those then, based on that, they communicate it. But the other part of the government is they need to get out of the way. They need to let people do what they do best. Let them be innovative, let them be entrepreneurial. So don't be bureaucratic in terms of your legal system to start a company. It should be easy. In a country like Dubai, in the US, you can start a company in less than 30 minutes. Over here, it takes a long time. In the same way, if there are employees that you have to let go because you're going through a downturn, in the US, you can let go of people, which is harsh, it sounds cruel, but the company can't afford to have them. So it's better for the company to let go of those people. Over here, Brazil, you can't let go of people, that's bureaucracy. And therefore, the company suffers while it's struggling. And then taxation. Taxation in Dubai, for example, or in Singapore, is 15%. I don't know what that means. Whatever you do, you'll pay 15%.
Here?
We don't know what the tax means. You have to put taxes on taxes on taxes, and you don't know if you're breaking the law or if you're doing it legally. And so it's very hard. So it's scary. And so the government is to make it simple for the entrepreneurs to get on with it, but the government can help by choosing the direction where the country wants to go and lead. Is this country going to be the leading in agro industries? Is it going to be the best in biodiversity from the ocean? Is it going to be the leader from Amazonia, and therefore what we find uniquely in Amazonia to do something different? Brazil's unique. Brazil can lead the world in many things, but you have to choose, and the government should choose. Perhaps if the government doesn't choose, I put the challenge to the people of Brazil, saying, tell them to get out of the way and just move forward and do it yourself.
Yeah, we have to make a choice about that. So let's change the subject for the speed of technology. Yes. How does it affect the development of innovation in the world, like even in rich countries or poor countries?
So the good news is, for the first time, all this technology that's coming is actually democratizing the world. So the knowledge of MIT and Stanford and the science and technology which comes out of there immediately is available through the internet, in a university in São Paulo or somewhere in the middle of Manaus. Similarly, the people are moving. We've got Brazilians everywhere now, around the world. And those Brazilians, when they come back, they bring great ideas also. And it's easy. So technology has become almost not the competitive advantage anymore. The advantage is the integration of that technology to create new things. If you look at Apple, Apple didn't create any technology All the technologies existed, batteries, screens, the storage device. They put it together with a nice design and got it out to the market. If you look at Facebook, Facebook used all the technologies of the internet to create the Facebook social media software. We can create those apps over here. So today, an entrepreneur or a big company here can compete with anybody else in the world by just bringing people. And you can bring consultants, and you can hire people from Paris or from New York to come and work over here. And people will love it.
So the fact that we don't have money to go with the same speed in the technology, it doesn't mean that we won't have innovation.
Oh, look at countries like little countries like in Hungary, in Czech Republic, and even Israel. But I think the Eastern European countries are the best. They're the leaders in IT, the leaders in apps development. Skype and all the technology comes out of that area. How did they do that? They didn't create any of the base technology, but they integrated. So the opportunity exists in Brazil to create great companies. And yes, science and technology research is important, but that doesn't mean that if you're not doing it, you cannot play on a global area, because innovation has been democratized.
You talked about big companies, but a lot of these big companies in innovation in the world, they started as a startup, as a small companies, garage companies. Do you see this is the future? This is going to be the model of the development of innovation sites?
So at this moment, in the US, the top 5 companies of the US are almost 20% of almost 80% of the whole S&P 500. So if you take Apple, Microsoft, you take Google, Facebook, and let's say Amazon, the value of those 5 companies is almost the value of about 60 to 70% of the whole stock market. Right? That's how big these companies became. And most of those companies didn't exist 30 years ago, and they were startups. But every other company, including GE, there was a founder. His name was Thomas Edison. If you look at Ford, there was a founder, and he was an entrepreneur. So these companies are all founded by entrepreneurs at one point in our history, and then they look like they've been around forever. Right? So today we'll think in another 10 years, or your kids and my kids will say, Google, it's been around forever. So yes, they start with founders, and they're small companies and they grow rapidly. The difference today, I think, is a small company can become big very fast. Versus before, it used to take 30, 40 years, you can get there in 15 to 20 years now.
What about fear? Fear that young people or the entrepreneurs have to start something and to think about innovation, and they don't have the technology or the money to do it. What fear they can't have to go ahead? So
we want to be very careful. I mean, right now, all around the world, entrepreneurship is being encouraged by governments. Oh, we're going to have startup culture, startup meets, and all this stuff. And it's a very dangerous movement. I'm not sure it's the right thing.
So what to avoid?
Yeah. So what has happened is to be an entrepreneur or a startup has become cool. But that doesn't mean we're going to create great startups. So everybody now wants to be an entrepreneur. So when I teach in my business school, I ask my MBA students, how many of you want to be an entrepreneur? And they all put their hands up. By the end of the year, only 2 or 3 are actually entrepreneurs. So what's happened right now is we're spending a lot of money on creating entrepreneurs, but they're not entrepreneurs. They are trying to be an entrepreneur. They're learning to be an entrepreneur, and most will fail. So the money the governments are spending on those things may be not the best use of money. That money could be invested somewhere else into companies where there are already entrepreneurs, and maybe we can make them 10 times bigger. So let's wait for the entrepreneurs to become entrepreneurs.
What's the alert sign for that?
I think a good entrepreneur is somebody who already knows how to buy and sell, buy things from somebody and sell something. They know how to make something. They know how to hire people and fire people. They know how to do accounting and finance. We have right now a culture called startups where there's a whole bunch of young people who have got ideas, but they don't know how to hire and fire. They do not know how to do finance. They don't know how to maybe make a team. And we're investing on those guys when we should be investing on the guys who already know how to do some more things. And there the money is less risky and the upside is much greater.
As you know, Brazil, how do you see us? Where do you see us in these rates of technology, but most of innovation? Not by our will to be innovators, but a real capacity to do it.
So I was very fortunate. I worked with Braskem, I've worked with Bunge, I worked with Natura, and Vale and Havaianas as a consultant.
Havaianas is a huge case.
Yes. And I helped build the innovation management systems in many of these companies in Brazil. And I have seen a couple of things. There is a mindset of wanting to be global. There's a mindset of wanting to do things which is better than the competitors. But the main mindset, which is the challenge for Brazil, is very few of the entrepreneurs or the innovators of these companies want to be a first mover. They always ask, has somebody else done it already? And if somebody else has done it, then they'll say, then let's find a way to do it better, quicker, faster. But if nobody else done it, it's got high risk of nobody approving it. So first mover type of thinking is not supported as much, it feels too risky. So Brazil needs people to basically say, hey, look, our Brazilian companies should be number one in the world. And we want to compete in the world, and we don't need to wait for somebody else to figure something out so we can do a fast follow on it. So Embraer is a good example of a leader, but not many of the other companies are exhibiting that. And so this amount of creativity and initiative to be first has got built into it. There's nobody else to follow. So it's like when you drive a car on a highway and there's police on the road, you like to follow a car which is going very fast. If the police pull over the first car. So you'd like to follow that car. But when that car's not there, can you drive still as fast as you can? And most people are comfortable following somebody else. I would like to see Brazilian companies take the position saying we don't need to look at other companies to find out what to do next. We should be able to figure out what's next and let other companies copy us.
What about the investors? What they are looking for to invest in innovation companies or startups? What should they look for?
So investors are very simple. They want to make money, right? It's as simple as that. And they do not care about the technology and they do not care about the business itself as long as there's a return on it. So if you have a company and you want investors to put money into it, you got to provide them some sort of security that there's a return on the money. And the return they're looking for is, can you grow fast? So the market you're targeting is a big market. Are there no competitors? So you can charge an extra high price. There's a price premium on it. And the last one is, are you coachable with the investors so you can kind of follow and listen to the investors? So if you own a company, make sure you're targeting a big market. Make sure it's a fast-growing market. Make sure there's no competitors in that market. And make sure that when you work with the investors, they find you collaborative and coachable. And that's what you have to do. And that's what the investors are looking for also.
Last question about the human side
Sure.
of the innovation, the technology itself. Are they going to come around people? What is going to be the role of people, especially in poor countries, in the labor market and everything?
So this is actually the toughest question which is we are about to be faced as a society. We are entering a world where technology is going to solve every problem. Robotics is going to replace every inconvenience. And our life is going to be fantastic because anything that we don't like to do, a robot or a machine will do it for us. But in that world, what happens to all of us? First of all, our kids, what are they going to be doing in the future? What jobs will they have? Right? So that's the first question. And then it becomes even a bigger challenge when you look at people who are poor and people who don't have as much education. Because they are the first ones to be replaced in the labor markets and everything else. So I think as a society, everybody will have to look inwards to figure that one out. But we have 20, 30 years ahead of us to figure this out. Right? And
why 20, 30 years? Why this exactly time?
Well, maybe it's a little shorter. It could be that. But there will be barriers which will be put in place by unions and will be put in place by other systems that we will not be able to just trade things out. But the world we are going to, and I'm going to give the analogy, it's a terrible analogy, is a world where we will have unlimited slaves. And the slaves, unfortunately, are robots. And they don't have rights, and they can work all day, all night, and we will make them do that. And meanwhile, we are not going to be working as much. So we'll have to decrease the hours we work from 40 hours a week to maybe 30 to 20 and still be able to make the same money. Now this is a whole demand-supply economics issue. Now with the extra time, what are we going to do? Right?
Tell me.
Yeah. And this is the real issue. So we're going to look at entertainment. We're going to look at how to have a better life. And this takes us back to the Roman Empire. In the Roman Empire, they had excess slaves, and the people had lots of free time, and so they went to the Colosseum.
Is this progress?
I am not sure if it's progress, but the free time will give us a time, again, to be philosophical, reflective, and everything else. But there's a dark
Innovators.
side. But there's a dark side to it, that if we go to the Colosseum, how quickly will we get bored with the entertainment? And what will we ask for next? What will we ask for next? What will we ask for next? And the Colosseums were not pleasant in the way it played out. So we are moving in a very interesting time. Robotics is coming, electronics is coming, and they're going to be good for society, but they could be bad for us. And we have to start thinking as society from a humanistic point of view, what are we going to do next? But the technologists, the businesses are going to move in the one direction, efficiency through technology, and they are going to bring robots into the world.
I just learned that there's a lot of philosophy in the innovation debate.
Absolutely. I think even Albert Einstein says this, a lot of people think scientists and physicists are very, they don't believe in God. But the reality is all scientists are actually discovering and working with what is God, what's the meaning of life. And so I think innovation ultimately is science and technology, the market, which is human beings. They come together, and you got to make sure that it's holistic. And so the best innovators actually connect human beings with technology.
Thank you very much for the interview. Obrigada.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.